You know what day it is, guys? It is Tuesday night, cards and cake. Look at that. Man, my new camera is so awesome. I love that. And tonight I got not one, but two amazing guests. One of them you know already. He goes by Tyler, and he is the VP of Data and Operations over at Sports Card Investor. The other guy I'll bring on in a second. What's up, Mike C? How's it going tonight, man? But without further ado, I'm going to bring Tyler on. We're going to be talking about the breaking news with market movers and what prompted them to make this new membership option, as well as the new features. But again, I'm not an affiliate of Market Movers. Neither is my other guest. We just want to showcase basically the companies, the services that are leading the way for sports cards. So I'll be very excited to bring on representatives of Card Ladder and Slab Stocks and whoever else emerges in the future. But without further ado, I'm very proud to bring on Tyler, aka Teapot. I love that nickname too, man. Like, you're the most gangster rapper ever.
Oh man, I've been known to dabble with a little bit of rhyming to beat. So
you have a gangster rapper look to you. I could just see.
Man. Yeah. Don't mess with me. I'll tell you. Actually, some of the guys in college called me like crazy teapot or other things. But the teapot story is a short, funny one where basically I was joining another team at my last company with two Tylers, myself and another guy, and they said, "Well, we got to call you something else." I said, "You can call me Teacot," which is what kind of one of my nicknames with my last name, Nethercott. And this guy says, "How about Teapot?" And I said, "Absolutely not." And he said, "Teapot it is." And that's how it stuck. And literally, I have hundreds of people who call me Teapot now. So
dude, it's a cool name because it could be super gangster, like you murdered someone with a teapot, but I'm just gonna give you extra credibility that way. More street cred.
Yeah.
What's up, Global Sports Card Investor Brian Kingsley? Cody, what's up? David Hunter. I got one more guest I'm very happy to bring on, and this is gonna be like a sweet little threesome we got going on tonight. And you already know him already, more than likely. He goes by Ziggy No. Ziggy, you might be muted. I'm gonna unmute you. There you are. How you doing tonight, man?
Doing great, guys. Doing great. Thank you very much. It's awesome to be here. It's awesome to see the awesome audience. It's great to be on with Teapot. I got great questions. I'm excited. A lot going on. So thank you very much.
For sure. And first thing I got to ask is, y'all have cake. Tyler, you already showed me a little something. Show everyone else what you got there.
My wonderful wife, you got to keep something that's going to keep the kids happy too. So I got a little funfetti. This is made from cake mix. I don't know if anybody's ever had these, but cookies made from cake batter are like very, very good. It's kind of like a cake pop,
It sounds amazing to me. It sounds like a more efficient way of eating cake because you don't need a fork. You could just take it on the run, like cake on the run. And Ziggy already said, I'm going to assume you have the biggest cake period of all three of us, and that it was just ruining your Wi-Fi connection because it was so thick. But this is my cake tonight. Carrot cake, classic chocolate in HD. Anyways, I want to say hi to you guys. What's up, personal finance dad? Evan, what's up, my man? Can't forget this ID. Did I get that right? Can't forget this. ID. Okay. Baby Swagoo, James, what's up, my man? And Ziggy, feel free to speak a bit louder. It looks like it's not as loud for some of you guys. And Hockey 99, we're going to take some questions later on. So first of all, let's just get to it. Tyler, before we get into the news of market movers, what's your background overall in life and in cards? And then how'd you get involved with Sports Card Investor?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in West Michigan. That's where I live now. I live in Grand Rapids. And I've kind of been a little bit around the world. I lived in southern France for about 6 months. I lived in Orlando for 6 months. I spent about 5 weeks out in your neck of the woods in LA. That was supposed to be longer, but it didn't work out, like so many people. And I lived down in Louisville, Kentucky for a couple of years, but predominantly I've been in West Michigan. And my career background's pretty diverse. I've overarching pretty much predominantly been in finance, project management, data and software development. I worked for a bank. I worked for a distribution company. And I started following Jeff's Sports Card Investor show last year. I've been collecting kids off and on since I was a child in the 90s. Was super into it. And when his show came out, I don't know, maybe it was serendipity, but I found it right when it came out, started following it. I joined the Discord right when he opened that. I became a moderator within a few weeks or maybe a month of him opening the Discord. And we just sort of stayed in touch. Occasionally I would DM him, and we started talking about the idea of a data platform, a way to aggregate and provide data in a meaningful way to a broader audience. Because when you look at it, a year ago there wasn't anything like this. And there's now obviously market movers and a few others out there who are trying to make data more accessible to investors, collectors, anybody who's into the hobby. The data is really valuable. So my single favorite year of sports cards is 1996. That was kind of my heyday, but it just also was one of the greatest NBA rookie classes in history. And it's really when sports cards kind of took a massive leap forward in my mind, at least in terms of innovation, aesthetics, so many great sets. I still collect, honestly, like anybody and everybody from the 90s when it comes to really cool inserts, just based on gut preference and things like that. So I'm still very much a fan of 90s basketball, especially.
You mentioned 96, and you might have to confirm with this, Ziggy. Isn't 96 the first year of Chrome, of Topps Chrome?
That is.
And then that Topps Finest basketball, that was great too, with the Kobe rookie card where he's going right through, he's like tearing through the film. I love the Topps Finest. That was one of my favorite cards, is just the ability to manipulate the card yourself. Do you want to take it off? Do you want to unwrap it or not? But very cool background. And if you guys are seeing in the comment section, Ziggy, he's not doing the video today. He's not doing the video. He's making sure that his DSL connection is strong. So not sure if that would have held up with video, but he is here with us. So let's go into a bit of market movers, because there's a couple big controversies in life. There's religion, there is politics, there's COVID and how it's handled, and then there is market movers. It feels like in the most non-controversial, wonderful little hobby, there's got to be some controversy. So tell us real quick about the update, what you guys are offering now and where it came from. And then Ziggy, I'd like to get your take as well, because you are someone that has been involved with Sports Card Investor for a while, not as an affiliate or anything, but helping out with the Facebook groups, as well as a user of the tool, and also giving a lot of feedback. So Tyler, take it from here, and then I want to hear what you have to say after that, Ziggy.
Sure, yeah. And I'm happy to go any deeper or any questions anybody has, but I'll say at a very high level. When I joined the Sports Card Investor team officially, I was working part-time with Jeff and the team, and then I joined full-time this summer. We kind of outlined what our goals are, what's our mission at Sports Card Investor, and very high level. We want to inspire people to appreciate the hobby, appreciate sports cards, appreciate the art, the aesthetics, the rarity, the community. We want to educate. We want to entertain. Obviously, Jeff and Amber now, who's been doing the shows, they have a background in that. They're professional. They know how to be in front of a camera, and we want to innovate. And then we also want to create a community. And that's one of the best things about sports cards in general. That's one of the best things about the hobby overall, is the community. That being said, I'm aware, I'm very involved in social media and Instagram and in our Discord and everything, of some of the controversy surrounding investing in sports cards versus collecting sports cards. And I see the memes out there. Honestly, a lot of them crack me up. I like to think I have a pretty good sense of humor. But we don't believe you have to choose between the two of them. And I think there's been some kind of misconception about pump and dump or hype mechanisms or other things. I will just be the first one to say, I know Jeff would say this, I know anybody else on our team would say this, that is not our goal. That is not our goal. We each have our own personal collections. I have a very, very extensive Andre Drummond collection that I'm proud of. You can follow me on Instagram, Drummond Card Collector. We all have PCs. We all have a background in collecting cards. That's how we got started into this. So this is not a come in and figure out how we can kind of usurp and destroy the sports card industry by inflating values and creating flip mechanisms and things like that. All of that being said, we know that data is a really valuable commodity for making smart decisions. And we understand also that you have people who are in sports cards who are literally at all ends of the income spectrum, of their net worth, of all of those kinds of things. That's one of the beauties also about sports cards, is that it kind of reminds me of when I went to the Kentucky Derby, and I literally was like, somebody was like, hey, last year that box seat you're sitting in is two spots away from where Tom Brady and Giselle sat last year. And I'm just like this everyday guy, honestly. So you see sort of these like social classes and economic classes coming together and saying, you know what, some guys can afford $100,000 PMG, and other guys, have a hard time choosing between two $10 cards. It's sort of an extrapolation or a microcosm of the rest of the world. And in my opinion, it's a really cool dynamic. It brings people together who might not otherwise even ever be having a conversation. So that's a big part of it, is we want to create a community. With respect to the updates that we made recently, and why did we make the decision to get rid of the investor level and to introduce the Market Movers Lite? Some people saw it as a money grab, as a power grab, or as a response to the market. The reality is, we got together as a team. I'm remote, working out of Grand Rapids. I'm the only one in our team working, not working in Atlanta with the rest of the team. Went down there for a few days. We had some team strategy sessions, and we really spent a lot of time, like a couple of days, reviewing the feedback that we were getting from our community. And literally not a day went by where we weren't getting emails, or an email or multiple emails from investors saying, I can't afford $50 a month. Is there any way you can give me access to limited access to the tool? Can you give us access to the charts? Can you give me basketball only access, something? So we went through it. The other piece was, when we looked at our membership levels, we were actually progressively, we were getting feedback that people weren't really seeing a lot of, concrete value, I'll say, in the investor level. They didn't feel like they could really engage in the community all the time. They didn't say that they didn't have access to the charts. They were getting the card picks a day later. It's like one of those things where you come out and you say, okay, this is our strategy. This is what we're going to do. And then every 6 months, a healthy organization is going to look back and go, what's working, what's not, how can we serve our customers better? And that's really what our goal was. It's not a monetary grab. I mean, yes, we're a business. Our goal is to make money through Market Movers, but our goal is also so that everybody who's a member is going to make back their money, multiple times over by having access to the data that we work on literally night and day, by building this tool out. So we kind of went through that whole process and just evaluated the subscription levels, what we're doing. The one piece that I'll say isn't quite restored is we took stuff away from a lower level in terms of information. We're not putting out any more of the trending card reports. Honestly, the effort level to put that together and send it out, we weren't getting a lot of positive feedback on it. But we want to start continuing to ramp up the content that we're putting out for free. Parker, who is on our team, is on my team. He's our director of data analytics. He's like, hey, I want to start putting out tutorial videos, how to sell cards, creating more community around that, listening to the Discord people. So there's a ton of ideas. Everything kind of comes down to, we were talking about before, opportunity cost and time. There's only so many hours in the day. Speaking for myself personally, I can tell you I work a good number of hours, and I don't really take a day off because this is something I'm really passionate about. I love the hobby. I love my job right now. It's the best job I've ever had. And I'm really enthusiastic about trying to crank out updates and content as fast as we can to keep up with the demand, because there's a lot happening in this space right now. So that's maybe that wasn't as short as I wanted it to be, but that's the kind of high level.
Yeah, we're going to get to some of those comments as well. Ziggy, I see you're muted there, so chime in whenever you'd like, but I'd like to get your take on just the tool and what you've seen so far in the last several months since you've used it. And then we're going to really dive into some of the comments, because I think the number one is it's always price, right? If it's free, it doesn't matter. It's great. But with staff that needs to be hired to be able to do all this, with all the stuff, bills need to be paid. It's just a matter of how do you pay the bills? What can you get away with? What can't? How do you present as much value as possible so that it's worth whatever amount you can charge? Because if not, then the market reacts and says, not worth it, I'm going to go over here, and then you got to pivot once again. So what are your thoughts?
Yep. So first of all, hopefully you guys can hear me okay. And I apologize. I am in my cabin on a DSL line today. So no video, just going to go with audio. So
We might need you to
everybody can hear
scream.
me? Is that cool? Mic check. Okay. Well, I'll scream a little louder. So one thing I want to point out, guys, is that eBay just announced they are going to be charging for data access as of October 15th. I've talked to Jeff about this. This does not impact market movers at all because market movers probably has a paid relationship with eBay. This is really going to close down data for the free providers like 130 Point, Card Snoop that used to be out there. But what it also does, it really emphasizes the value that eBay is putting on this data. So, one thing I like about market movers and what they've done recently, in my opinion, is that you guys have gotten out of what could be positioned as the hype business. And what I mean by that, and I've spoken to Jeff about this, Teapot, is that there are a lot of guys out there who just sell information, right? Subscribe to my Patreon, subscribe to my channel, and they're giving information really out of nowhere. And I say that where a lot of what market movers is you're using a data tool and people are giving content. So what I like is that Market Movers team has moved into, hey, we're providing a software solution. It's $25 or $50, but it's also opened it up for other providers to use Market Movers now to show the data and the tool, right? So if you're a content provider like yourself, and this is one thing I love about what you're doing, Brad, is when you open up on a Saturday and show Market Movers answer live questions from the audience, you can show them data from the data tool, right? It's not altered. It's nothing hidden. It's just raw data being pulled from eBay that you can show in graphs. So I've always been a fan of market movers. I'm a big critic of what goes on in the sports card world, whether, whatever it might be. And I like what market movers and the team has done. Again, they're providing a software now solution that's a very powerful solution. You have two options of how you can use that. And like I said, it also opens up for content providers and also people who power use market movers. Hey, you can teach people how to use market movers, right? You can show them how these graphs work. Teapot, I love what you guys just did with the graph on price change. I know there was a video on that just recently. And again, I hope you guys are following along. But if anybody has time to check this out, this to me is one of the most powerful things Market Movers does. Instead of just showing you how a card is going up and down, this shows you how your investment, if I spent $500 in March, how much is that investment gone up based on the player I invested in over the last 6 months? That to me is awesome stuff, which I'm very excited about.
Ziggy, you mentioned something really intriguing and it's something I didn't know about. I'm not sure if, Tyler, you're familiar with, but that eBay is not going to offer its data for the free tools anymore. And I want to know what tools that includes, if it's like PWCC Marketplace and some of these other sites where you could just go in there and see a level deeper than what eBay would show directly there, but again, not laid out in a professional way. If you know, Ziggy, what sites specifically that would affect, and then Tyler, are you familiar with this news and how it impacts? Because that's the first I've heard of it.
Yep.
I can just add real quickly. It came on Filmington's channel a few days ago. From my understanding, they're closing the free API. Okay, so anybody who's been using the free API will be impacted. I don't know who that is. I'm not going to comment on other providers. I know I did talk to Jeff, and Jeff confirmed there's no impact to market movers. I'm going to guess that a company like 130 Point that had so many queries they could do per day is going to be impacted. I don't know how Terramark or others are. Teapot, I'll be quiet.
Yeah, no, that's good information. Yeah, I'm aware of all of this. So, and for those who don't know who are listening, API, API stands for Application Programming Interface. It's basically just it's like a data exchange between one database and another database. So that's the most conventional way of getting information. There are other less legal ways and other things, but that's how we get our information from eBay. And there won't be an impact to market movers. We'll still be operational. eBay is as a business, as a big business, as Ziggy alluded to, has very valuable information. There's a saying out there right now that data is the new oil. Data is very, very, very valuable for a whole bunch of reasons, for marketing reasons, for investment reasons, for all kinds of reasons. So they're making internal decisions about what they're going to do with that data. That's very, very valuable. And in some ways, it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out, right? Because The rest of the sports card community, in a sense, is at their mercy. They're seeing a lot of challengers coming up with alternative marketplaces. There's been ComC, but you see, Star Stock. You see, is it MySlab, or there's different
StockX,
yeah, StockX, obviously. So there's others coming out. They're going to have their own data. What's been really interesting for us is we get a lot of questions like, are you going to have other data coming into Market Movers? Yeah, we would love to. I mean, we would love to. We would love to get information from these other sites, and that's all dependent upon whether or not they want to partner with us to give us access to that information. We've had those, started those conversations. It's also like, how do we source that data properly and get it funneled into the same queries and things like that? But I can't speak to concretely to what other companies, what other websites will be impacted. What I do know is that eBay they have multiple different APIs. The particular API that's impacted is their completed sale API. So I guess 2 days from now, it's not entirely clear if it's like at the end of the night tomorrow on October 14 cutting into 15, or at the end of the day on the 15th. I imagine some of these other websites that people are accustomed to using will potentially not have their data anymore, which is there's been a lot of reaction. So it's hard. I know a lot of, as somebody who puts in a lot of energy, I can understand how that would definitely be having the wind sucked out of your sails after you work to develop an app or a website with that data.
Yeah, well, when I hear that news, the first thing I think of is that, all right, eBay has a lot of leverage because they are the number one platform for sports cards. They have this data, and they might as well sell it if there's a buyer, and if they're giving it away for free and they're seeing that other people are using it, even though it still results or should result in money going to eBay. At least, people could use eBay as a reference point to buy in person or on Facebook, but still, there's a benefit for eBay, but of course there's a bigger benefit to sell the data to someone that is willing to pay for it. But that brings up the follow-up question, which is, can any platform be free or very low priced? Because if eBay controls this data and they're going to sell it to the highest bidder or just set a price that's pretty high, you got to work that into your business model somehow. And I know that, and I want to just confirm with you, Market Movers also uses eBay affiliate links, which I use myself. But I just want to confirm that's another source of revenue where, I think it's a great way, because literally if you press a button, you buy the same card, eBay doesn't get all of it. They get 97%. And then it's a way to keep the business model going without costing someone extra. But regardless, if your bill, if Market Movers or any other platform's expenses just went up because eBay is now charging for this data, that's got to be made up for somewhere. So, and then when you mention sharing data from other sources, whether it's, I don't know if it'd be Facebook or whatever other places that could share it, they might have a price, or they might want some sort of compensation, knowing that it's of value to you and your tool, and that'll help separate you from other platforms, or at least just help a paying audience. It's just really interesting the way it's going, because it's evolving and shifting so quickly. But what right now are the membership structures going forward with Sports Card Investor? What so is it the $9.99 one is done with?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so 20. Yeah, go for it.
We had two structures. We had the $49.99 a month, with an annual discount if you sign up for annual, and we had the $9.99 a month with an annual discount as well. And basically the $9.99 was the paid access to get access to our member live streams. We do breaks and you've got the gallon. Sorry, I just went kind of double fisting on the water.
Well, I also got my Select High Life right here, but that'll be for later.
Okay.
Keep going. Don't want to ruin your train of thought.
No, it's all good. I do have a little squirrel brain, so it's okay. So we had the $9.99. What that got members, paying members, was basically sorry. The comments are the most distracting thing.
He's just talking to the lens right here.
There's some good questions. I have to open a new tab or something. So anyway, we have a community. Ziggy, for example, has been gracious enough to be a moderator on Facebook. We had the Discord with some paid channels to kind of control the access, into who can participate in those and add a little bit more structure and security to those. And then we do our weekly cards we're buying and selling, where myself, Jeff, Parker, Tyler, and one of our Discord moderators or admins, Card Optics, we all write our picks. And the goals of those, you talked about it in the review that you did of Market Movers, are not, I repeat, are not to tell people who they should be buying as much as literally, this is how we're thinking about the market right now. This is what we're seeing. And this is why we're buying these cards, or why these could be a potentially good buy or the right time to sell. It's more of an education mechanism back to our original mission. So we had that. We had the member live streams that we do once or twice a month, where we break cards, we do giveaways, we have live trivia. We give everybody an opportunity to participate in that, ask questions, Q&A with Jeff. I've been on a few of them. So we had that level, but again, what we were evaluating is that we were having more like non-renewals or cancellations than we were new signups. And then that plus the feedback, the direct feedback, we surveyed our members, we've polled people, we've said, what do you like? What do you not like? What can we do better? And we'll continue to do that. That's not a one-time thing. We understand we want this to be something that people find a lot of value in. When I look back to what we had in Market Movers 6 months ago, which was basically what we have now in Market Movers Lite, essentially what we've done now is we've said, hey, this product that we spun up, that was one of a kind back when we opened it, that was a startup, that was something with valuable data, is now basically the same thing that you're getting access to for half the price of what we kicked off at. So obviously, anytime, anybody who's ever started a business or ever started a membership or anything, you sit and try to, determine what's the right price to make this a viable and sustainable business. Jeff's hired myself, Kelly, Parker, Tyler. We have software developers. We have a whole team of people. That takes money to produce and continue to improve this product. So it's something I'm obviously really grateful for. So as you look at that, you try to find the sweet spot to scale it and make it financially viable. This is not a money grab. I mean, honestly, it's not. Jeff, I'll speak on his behalf, toot his horn a little bit. He's a very successful entrepreneur. He's got other businesses. Honestly, I would say the same argument for him is the one that people use to kind of defend Gary Vee, who loves sports cards, as far as I can tell, and talks about sports cards and explains his logic for sports cards. And then people accuse him of pump and dumping. And it's like, the dude's got almost $1 billion from what I've heard. So I don't think he's really too worried about the card values per se, as much as just the community and helping other people. That's Jeff. I've gotten to know him. He's a really good guy. And so again, now we have, just to kind of bring it back, we have what we originally kicked off Market Movers with earlier this year for half of the price of what we originally said, which was, I mean, I can't say any better way. That's listening to the feedback that we were consistently getting from people.
Yeah, and Ziggy, I'd like to hear your thoughts in a second too. There was one thing that didn't irk me, but I wish Market Movers offered, and it's literally just a trial. Free trial, 24 hours, 48 hours, something where, especially going from $10 a month where there's zero data tools, there's the group, there's the emails, but it's not the charts, to $50, when $50 could be a lot anyway, depending on your budget with this. My idea was just, let me try it out for a day, just 24 hours to really go into it, to see for myself, either it's worth it now, maybe it's worth it in 6 months, or it's just not worth it for me. Is there a reason why there hasn't been a free trial? Just because a lot of other businesses, you think of apps, it's, hey, enter your credit card, try it out for 7 days, cancel anytime. It seems like a very common business model with programs and apps and all of these subscription-based programs.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. Honestly, we get asked all the time, is there a free trial? It's something we've talked about. It's not something we've rolled out yet. We keep talking about it. But I will say, anybody who's emailed me and said, do you have a free trial? Basically what my response is, try it out for 5 days. If you don't like it, just email us back. We've got our help at sportscardinvestor.com, email inbox. We'll give you a full refund. We're not sticklers over that. Even when you sign up for Sports Card Investor or for Market Movers, there's a disclaimer that's like, when you're signing up for this, there's no refunds or whatever. It's this legal jargon. If people email us all the time, they say, hey, look, I signed up for an annual subscription and it's 3 months. I've lost my job. COVID sucks, like whatever it is. And we're not like, too bad, so sad. We always ask hopefully somebody could represent that, honestly, but we've given refunds. We want to have a good reputation. We want people to come back if they want to come back later, so that's the status of it right now is if you sign up and you're really not pleased, we don't want anybody to be paying for something they don't like, and just email us back and we'll be happy to give you a refund.
Okay. And one more thing, there's always promo codes, not to take profit out of Sports Card Investor, but I use the promo code, and that goes on any website I ever use. If there's ever a box for promo codes, I search for it, I'll enter it, and that does help because it went from 50 to 40. Probably not something you want to like shout out to the world, but hey, that's 20% off. So it definitely helps out. Ziggy, what are some of your thoughts after hearing this? If you're there.
Well, I can back up the customer service, what Teapot just said. So I have I manage the Facebook group, which is open to all in the community, members and non-members in sports cards, which is great. But of those people who've joined, if they've ever had an issue, I've escalated that to Jeff, and he's always refunded their money. And there have been people who've kind of been trolls who want to point negative things. What I like to point is I think Jeff's probably the most honest person in the sports card business. A lot of people, don't tell you how they're charging you, but they're charging you. Jeff has come to the market. He brought a great tool. Like I said, I'm not an affiliate of the tool, but I do love the tool. I think it's great. I've also said to people, it's not for everybody. If you're just a casual collector, it is a lot to pay, but the time it saves is amazing. I can also I've also pushed for a free trial. And I understand, I think part of it is managing that, as Teapot's kind of alluding to. If you go for a free trial, then you've got to turn off accounts and manage, payments and stuff. But the team's very, very good as far as customer service. And I do recommend anybody out there who's watching who doesn't know, check out, your channel on Saturday mornings. Another provider I'd mention is Northeast Ohio Sports. He does a great thing, I think, on Wednesdays using the tool. So there's several providers out there who use it. I'm also impressed with how many other people behind the scenes are using it. So again, big fan.
Awesome. And Ziggy, if there's any way to yell, I'm like, my ears like flushed to the computer, but I can hear you enough, but
I'm going to listen.
What's that?
But I'm going to listen in, but I will be on the chat to ask some questions and stuff. But again, thank you for having me on for a few moments, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it, Ziggy. Thanks so much. Yeah. And I want to hop over to questions. And it looks like price is definitely a thing. There's some great comments regarding free trials. And, at the end of it, you have a staff, you have bills to pay, you have overhead, you have all this stuff. And there's always this balance of, we got to offer so much value that no matter what we charge, it is well worth it. And if people on the other end, collectors and investors, aren't finding that value, it's just a matter of time before the business flops, or you have to pivot so much and so correctly in order to get that value. And then you have other platforms, other software or apps trying to vie for the business as well, offering either different tools, a lower price, whatever else. But I love it because it really is capitalism. It really is like the pure form of, you offer the value, you're going to get the business. If you can't, then our money will go elsewhere. And I think we're seeing that right now with just the way that you guys have had to pivot. But at the same time, the features are getting better and better. And the percentage change, which is, you mentioned and Ziggy mentioned, that was huge for me, because if you guys know, if you see my other videos on Comp C, that's literally how I find deals. I'll look to see, I'll search a player, and then I'll go up to the bar and it'll go highest percentage off or biggest discount. And the problem with biggest discount is that it could be a $300 discount based on what they think it's worth. But if it's a $4,000 card, that's nothing. However, if there's a $50 card that is on the top of their list of highest percentage off, and it sold for 150 about a month and a half ago, then I know, hey, let me look here. This card really dropped or is much lower. Let me start researching a bit more. And I just bought about 5 Nikola Jokic rookie cards, Prism rookie cards raw for $40 to $50 a piece. And I saw on the data that it peaked at like $180 or something in August. And I was like, okay, 40 to 50, that'll be an easy 2x next season. No doubts about it, assuming there's no injury or crazy offseason.
That's such a good point. You're highlighting one example of why market movers is so valuable. Every day that goes by, we're building more history, right? So we're continuing to add more and more cards every day. We add like 1,000 new cards a month, and honestly, that's going to get warp speed, to take a term out of our current climate. And when you look back, you're only getting a limited access to that data on eBay, and PWCC, goes back farther, but they don't have the best offer information. So when you look at that type of stuff, you go, oh, what if I didn't have visibility to know that, Damian Lillard cards spiked like crazy back in March, I think it was, and then came way down. And if you had seen that they leveled off, you would have been like, maybe I should buy Dame again. And then lo and behold, they spiked again later. Like, you can sort of have that visibility to see those waves. And for people who know and understand, financial market trends and other things, you can extrapolate some of those things and try to look for parallels with the sports card market. It's a totally different animal in many ways because you have the volatility of injuries and hot streaks and all these things happening. But basically, you're highlighting a really valuable aspect of having that data going back over time, so that you can evaluate that and say, do I think Nikola Jokic's career is over and that he'll never see another hype period in his play? Probably not. Dude's really good, and he's going to be playing for a number of years to come.
Yeah, and for me, it's just a matter of it shows me human behavior, right? Like I'm doing my own research on the players. I'm doing my own research on who I think is underpriced. All the attention is on these guys because I'm looking at the headlines. This guy's kind of lurking in the dark. Okay, he's lurking in the dark, and the prices are really low, and headlines don't stay on one player forever. So it's like, okay, they've had their 15 minutes of fame. This person should have it at some point in the next 6 months. And then I get to see, especially on Saturday mornings, what I like to see is, okay, it dipped a lot, and then it dipped a bit more, and then the last 3 sales, it's plateaued. And then I go in, and then I ask myself, will it go down more, or will it plateau and go back up? And I don't know the answer, but after seeing the trends, I feel good about saying, all right, this is a comfortable enough price for me to pull the trigger, knowing that the odds of it going up are higher than the odds of it continuing to go down, just based on all these different factors. Let's take some questions, though, and I really want to see what kind of questions and angles you guys are thinking of. So the first one right here is from David Hunter about market movers. Are you planning to go back beyond 6 months in the card history?
So yeah, let me actually clarify how our data goes back and how far it goes back. So when Jeff first launched Market Movers, basically the decision was made that we want to grow the overall database more than we want to spend time curating a ton of history on a card, right, and reviewing it. So our approach is when we add a card concretely to our popular card chart database, we write a very specific query, and we do our absolute best, with hopefully with some consistency, to make sure we're only pulling in all the right sales, but that we're pulling in all the right sales. And for anybody who's ever used any kind of, Boolean operators in eBay, like parentheses and quotes and minus signs to try to get, to the right data, you'll find you have to iterate. Honestly, even if you use Chart Any Card, which helps basically create a front end to those operators for our users, you have to keep searching because there's so many parallels and there's so many bogus listings, and people get really creative with PSA 10 6 question marks and all these types of things that you see on eBay listings. So it takes time to add a new card to the tool. It takes a lot of time to start adding cards from a brand new set, because we're going, okay, we have to look at the checklist. We have to back out all the other parallels, all the relevant inserts. Plus, we're constrained to a certain number of characters by eBay that you can't go over. So you're like picking and choosing how to make this data the most accurate. We've refined our approach to that. We have more refinements coming to make that even better. But the point being, it takes time to add a card. What we do once we add that query is we pull in 90 days of history. So the day the card is added, we go back 90 days. We get that information, and then we review it. We review every card in that history, and we make sure there's nothing bogus coming into the results that we pulled in. And then every day that data goes on and goes on and goes on, we have some methods to basically make sure that outliers hopefully aren't creeping into future sales that are getting pulled in. So it's not actually 6 months. It's actually 90 days from the day we add the card, and then it builds over time. We do get occasional emails from people saying, hey, look, why can't you go back 3 years? My response was kind of 3 years is, you can look at macro trends of the hobby, but prices 3 years ago are more or less irrelevant to what they are today. And honestly, prices 8 months ago are irrelevant to what they are today in a sense. Not when you're trending, not when you're looking at how cards have moved, but the whole market has exploded since then. So
it's kind of like buying real estate. You look at the comp of the house next door to the one you're looking at. You look at the most recent sale, but in a hot market, if that neighborhood has really popped off in the last year, you can't compare it to when half the houses were foreclosures 2 years ago, or was, there's a crack house here and whatever else. So it's just, the hobby has evolved so much just in a year, but even less than a year, that I understand it'd be nice to go further back, but there'd be an asterisk saying, look back for entertainment's sake, but it will more than likely not help you for future projections. Or, if you wanted to place a bid on a card based on what it was a year ago, even, I'm like, that's a whole other world. I mean, that's not even close to the amount of money, demographics, audience, et cetera, that are in the hobby now. Obviously I like the option of going further back as a bonus, but I understand the fact that it's not probably the top priority, to go back that far, maybe like 6 months, a year, something like that. But beyond that,
newer investors, newer collectors get into trouble sometimes, or at least find themselves a bit confused, whether they're buying or selling a card that's more rare, like a serial number under 10 or something, a gold prism, is those aren't selling every day. And so they'll go back and maybe they find one that sold 3 months ago. And they're like, oh, that card was $600 back then. That's the last comp, so I'm going to buy it. There's opportunities instead to look sort of to parallel comps, and say, oh, this is where these price ratios come into play. And it's a more advanced play. It takes more knowledge, more training. It's something that I'm excited about building out within the tool, and we can talk more about that. But that's part of the education, is to think using data. Oh, Luca usually sells for double what Trey does on a given day. I'm just using as an example. Pull up their Prism Silver PSA 10s and see sort of a baseline. Okay, Luca's, gold sold for $4,000 a couple months ago or last week. So roughly speaking, Trey's might be 2,000. That's better than looking back 3 months ago and saying, last Trey comp sold for $600, so I'm going to sell it mine for $600. You know what I'm saying? So it's just an example of where that historical data has value insofar as you observe macro trends of the market, but not much on a micro card specific level all the time, because it's so volatile.
Okay, I want you to take Ziggy's question and then tell me a bit more about the new features or the new qualitative background that you are talking about bringing to market movers, because there are certain features that or certain things that I still have got to fill in the gaps with a lot of other resources, a lot of other conversations, that I know that if it was all within one resource and it helped me, it would just save even more time, thus offering more value. But let's take Ziggy's question first about upcoming products and how fast do you enter that into your system, like the Hoops Premium in November?
Yeah. so glad you brought that up. And I'm also have mixed reactions about Panini releasing Hoops Premium. That is such a good example. I had this like jotted down. So first, let me say we have some big plans overall for popular card charts and chart any card. One of the biggest the biggest piece of feedback we get from people who remain members or people who say, I'm going to cancel for now, is, you still don't have all the cards I want in here. You don't have all the cards. Well, I mean, everybody knows in a sense, there's literally hundreds of thousands of cards. We can spend a week adding in all the new products from football, basketball, and baseball. And then we get the emails like, hey, why don't you have more hockey and soccer? So again, there's an opportunity cost component with new products. So like when Prism football, when Mosaic football dropped, I went in there and was like, I got to get Mosaic football. We got to get Mosaic football stuff added in here because it's a really important set. Actually, when Donruss football came out, it was like the first one with their pro uniforms on. We got to get that in there. When Panini, Topps, when they do these little tricky things where they release sets that you've never heard of or are new products that you didn't know were coming, it creates a bit of a nightmare for us in terms of making sure that our other data stays clean. I'll use the example of the Tmall products that released into the market last year for I think Prism, Select, others. This Tmall came out and it's like wave pattern. And now all of a sudden we got to go back and fix all of our existing card queries to exclude Tmall, China, wave, like all these words so that it's not pulling in these new product that got released. So you look at something like you got Hoops Premium, you got Donruss Clearly that's also coming out. You have Tmall, you had the Select Hybrid, which is basically fast break. They're doing all of this kind of stuff. And many times it's like without any fanfare or Asia exclusive, or all of a sudden we're reviewing our data going, what is this? We didn't even hear anything about this product coming out. Another one of my favorites is Bowman. So Bowman has, I honestly think you could make like a kind of snarky skit about it. Like people sitting in a boardroom going, well, let's do Bowman, but then let's do Bowman Draft and Bowman Chrome. And then let's put Chrome cards in Draft and Bowman. And then let's have Bowman First cards, but then also do a Bowman First edition with Chrome in both of those. And then only do refractors and autos of certain players and some of those cards. And you just like, people can't track of it.
So the board members of Bowman actually hate Sports Card Investor and Data Tools because they're just trying to make your life harder. They're like, this is going to screw them up hardcore.
We just joke about it because it's like baseball card collecting is so different from basketball and from Panini versus Topps, whatever. It's the sport, it's the companies. It's so different. They're so different that a lot of times when new people come into the hobby, we say, pick a sport, pick the sport you like the most or that you know the most, and just start with that because crossing lines is so different, but it starts getting like really, really difficult. So all that being said, this was just it's kind of to give an example of why sometimes it takes time to get new cards and new products added. It's not super simple to do it sometimes, but to answer Ziggy's question, we try to absolutely make sure that the Lighthouse products that are coming out are in there ASAP. As soon as we get access to the checklist, we're at least putting in the raw versions of the most important rookies and any other, important veterans, whether it's LeBron, Mahomes, Brady, etc. So with a product like Hoops Premium, we're going to have to do a little bit more digging into that. It's hard to determine, like this last month, Tyler Holzhammer, who's on our team, he went in and he added like the 100 most important baseball vintage cards into the tool. So he's been spending, doing a project to get all of those because people want more vintage, and that's been blowing up. So it's like, do you add Hoops Premium, or do you add more vintage basketball, or do you get some Pele cards in the tool, or how do you, prioritize that? We try to make our best judgment call. The other piece is we have been changing up how we receive like card suggestions. Sometimes people message me directly on Discord. You can click the support button on the site to ask questions. But basically, we thought to put some of that out to a vote but at the same time, we don't want to like bottleneck it either. I know Card Ladder does that. I know they, have some voting. We like to think we know enough about what are the most important products and sets that are coming out to at least place priority on those. And then for me, like a 90s guy, I'm like, Jeff, we got to get more 90s. You know what I mean? Like we're always talking about. There's so many important Jordan inserts and other things that I would love to get into the tool too. So it's just a question of timing and which ones we think the most people are going to benefit from.
I gotcha. And there's a comment I had up here earlier about how cool it'd be to have CompC. This is from James. A CompC API would be helpful, and I just think the more data you could pull from other platforms, the better. But right now, I mean, I'm sure your list, your to-do list is ridiculous. This is a great question by Chris Vegas Fine 777 about adding non-sports cards, Pokemon, Magic, or other cards to it because, again, to-do list gets 5 times longer, but to charge the highest amount so far that I've seen, the challenge is always how can we offer more and more value? And obviously this is one way to do so because a lot of people that are into sports cards are dabbling into Pokemon. A lot of people into Pokemon will eventually dabble into sports cards. You must have heard this request a few times. What's the latest there?
I'm going to answer you while I grab something. Hopefully
multitasking. Oh, perfect.
You'll still be able to hear me. You still hear me okay?
Nah, not really, but it's okay.
I gotta just grab.
What's that? It'll be in there next week?
No. Look at
all 800 Pokemon will be in there next week, guys.
Oh, yeah, Shadowless Charizard is ready to rock. No, listen. So when we started this, the irony of this is actually when Jeff was starting to get back into sports cards, he went looking for sports cards. And he ended up in a shop that was only selling like Magic and Pokemon. Like there were no sports cards. And he was like, where do I find sports cards? In our Discord, we have non-sports card channels. In the forums that we just released, we have non-sports card forum, pages, I guess you'd call them. We don't have immediate plans. And when I say immediate, I would say like end of this calendar year plans to get Magic, Pokemon in there. I played Pokemon when I was a kid. I don't have experience with the cards. You got to have knowledge into that space, right? So that would mean either engaging the community or bringing on somebody else who's got a lot of information about those. I did see that somebody, a DJ or somebody just bought a Charizard for like $240K. So obviously I know there's a lot happening there, but it's something we have definitely not ruled out. There's a lot of demand for it. We have a lot of people in our community who are actively buying sports cards and non-sports cards. So the reason I wanted to jump up, at the risk of seeming like I'm hyping something, or I would call myself like an everyday Marvel fan. I've watched the movies. I've been into the Marvel universe. I watched the cartoons growing up. I'm not a comic book person per se. I saw this card on eBay like a few weeks ago. This is the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, and this is a Precious Metal Gems Incredible Hulk, red, numbered to 100. This is part of Fleer Retro, which you might be familiar with. Fleer Retro was like 2012 and 2013. Was it like Upper Deck got the rights to Fleer and then recreated a lot of the iconic inserts from the 90s. And they did it in sports cards. So they did it in college uniforms, basically, because they didn't have the licensing, because Panini had it by that point. But you see titanium and PMGs and all these like iconic inserts from the 90s. They recreated them in Fleer Retro 2012, 2013. They did something similar, I guess Upper Deck did, where they did it for Marvel, and they did it in 2013, 15, 17, and I think there's an X-Men 2020 one coming out. But I mean, I just saw this and I was like, okay, that's so cool. And frankly, I cannot afford a PMG basketball card. Like you can find like a Rony Seakley PMG, who most people, maybe they don't even know who that is. And it's like $600, like because people collect the whole set. So this was really cool to me. It's just an example of like kind of nerd stuff too, right? But I saw this and was like, if I'm going to gravitate personally as a sports card collector toward a Marvel card, it's going to be from an analogous set that I recognize that's really cool aesthetically to me. So this is one firmly for my PC. Disclaimer: I have bought others recently, a handful of others. So I think it's an interesting speculation.
Yeah, I love the idea of when you get into sports cards, your mind starts to wander to other things. And some of the funniest purchases I've made, and they were more just for myself, but it always comes with that. But maybe someone else sees it. I bought a couple packs of Home Improvement cards, the TV show, the Tim Allen TV show. I mean, it was literally $1 a pack, and they were foil. And I'm like, I got that for myself, but maybe, and then I got there's like Steve Urkel and Family Matters and Full House cards I got on ComC. There's an, Allen and Ginter's Anthony Bourdain card. And it was like cards. I'm like, damn, I really want that for myself. That was probably the first few weeks. But then I started looking into the Marvel cards on ComC because it just was fun. It was intriguing. And you know what? They're never going to do something wrong. They're never going to screw up. They're never going to disappoint. It's pretty much the way. And also the way with movies nowadays. I remember learning this not too long ago where these Marvel movies, they're so profitable. They're so profitable not because people go into theaters and see them, because a lot of trouble with movies nowadays is that they're pirated online. So instead of all the revenue being made from the movie itself, it's all the toys, it's all the clothes, the Halloween costumes, the swords, the shields, the whatever else. So it's really about building the brand so that kids get enthusiastic about the new Spider-Man and the X-Men and all that, knowing that a lot of other countries will just pirate the movie and a lot of that revenue will be lost, unlike 20 years ago. So it's very fascinating how it crosses over. This one question here by Gaming God LJ is really good. He'd like to see a projection for the cards based on trends. And I kind of see, like there's a bit of overlap with the weekly email you guys send out where it's not really trends, but it's more rationale why you would be buying or selling a certain card based on, look at this chart, think of it this way, like in the next couple months, which is something I like putting out myself because it's just reasoning. But what do you think of, or what's in the talks with a projection or some sort of way to help people use the tool in a better way for their investing needs?
Yeah. So I would say right now what we have in there are a couple of things. One is just when you do a popular card chart search, we have like the general trend line. So you'll see that the ziggy zaggy, maybe I'll call it the ziggy no line, and it goes up and down, and then you get the trend line that's generated from that, right? So we have that, but I would say in general, we want to be very careful not to create any idea, any perception that we're saying this is what this card is worth. We're not in the market of valuation. We're not producing a Beckett price movement, a price guide. We're reporting on the most recent data for people to make informed decisions. Now, that being said, we introduced the price ratios, and when we did that, it's I don't want to say it's basic, but right now you just have it on the price on the popular card charts. This is a Market Mover Pro feature. You can go in there and you can compare variations. So you can compare a whole year's worth of silvers to base cards in PSA 10 and see what the ratios are and sort them and go, why is the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander silver to base 2.5 to 1, but the Luka's 6 to 1? Something's funny in there. You start kind of using your intuition when you see those trends. You can do the same thing on grades, and I think that's a really big one. You see PSA 10 to PSA 9 or PSA 10 to BGS 9.5 and how that's evolved over the last year. So a couple of things in that space. One, we want to start charting, and several people have asked me about this. We want to start charting those ratios over time. That's going to take some work and some thought. The other thing is to create a much bigger, what we're calling like an intelligence report, where you'll have like more access to the whole database, hopefully to give users the ability to compare players with the analogous card, like Luka to Trey across all their cards, and determine here's the average, sort it. Why is the Revolution, 1.8 to 1 and this one's 4 to 1? Is there an opportunity in either direction? And then a really cool feature, but I don't think it'd probably be like second half of next year because it would really take some work, would be to let users build their own algorithms using the data, right? Their own predictive algorithm. So if they want to come in and say, somehow use the data to use the ratios or something else to say, here's what I'm punching in to build that, projected 3-month value or something, that'd be a really cool thing to do. That's honestly maybe something that we'd end up engaging more members from the community and thinking about.
Okay. Well, in terms of that, because, we were talking a bit before about how it would be great just to have so many filters that we can only look at third-year players or third to fifth-year players or players. I mean, you can go deep with 3 million or more Instagram followers, and this is like so many different things. Are there going to be more filters being added in order for this to happen? Because there's still certain things that I had in my review, which if you guys have seen my review video, it was released the exact same day that Market Movers introduced their new interface, thus making it outdated by like 24 hours right then and there. But it was one of those now or never situations. And most of it applies. Most of it's the same, but there are some updates. But any new filters regarding that? And then also talk about how, this is really advanced stuff for a lot of people. I like the metrics. I like finding all these little anomalies and the opportunities. But for people that love cards, that I love this player. And why can't I just go on eBay and buy cards of this player and not seeing the full picture or the opportunities of, well, you could buy whatever player you want. You could buy Trae Young, but what card, what grade, what time of year, what time of month is the best in order to maximize value? What kind of features, tools, etc. are you guys working on to help people understand this? Because like I said earlier, I think it was in the video or in a follow-up comment to yours, it's one thing to have the tool, but if I don't know how to really use it, then what's the point? Yep. And it's kind of like Adobe Lightroom or one of those crazy things. You give me all that stuff, I have no idea what I'm doing. And so I think there's there's always like that concern that $50 a month is not worth it. I'd rather put into cards. But when someone can say, all right, I know exactly how to use it in its entirety, now I can really decide if it's worth it for me or not. I think that's a lot of clarity that could be offered. So what's going on that front?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot there. My head's
sorry
a little bit, but no, a lot of really good points and questions. First thing, so yeah, on the price point, you're right. It's like Ziggy alluded to this earlier. He said it. Market Movers is not for everyone. I'll go back to the fact that we have a full team staffed trying to develop the best sports card price analytics tool on the market. So if your budget is $50 a month on sports cards, or if your budget's $100 a month, probably doesn't make sense to spend $50 on the tool and then only have $50 left. There's other people who are investing in spending or just collecting a lot more. We have people we got several responses back from people who don't invest in all. I just like my collection. I like seeing what's out there. So to that point, whether people are getting into it brand new or they're avid collectors who just like to see new updates and new cards and what prices are doing, we want to start looking for ways to introduce more qualitative information into Market Movers. Right now, it is a data tool. We just got the front end update to the UI. We need to look a little more modern. I know you mentioned that before in your show, and frankly, I was saying the same thing, which is again, it's just like prioritizing what are you going to do first. So we introduce a new look, but we start getting more information in there, like you said, more ability to filter on cards to say, I want LeBron, I want Kawhi, I want AD, I want Giannis, I want Jason Tatum, Luka, Zion, Ja, and Trey. I want all of them, and I only want their rookie cards or their primary rookie card. Because if you start looking back across eras of products and things, you're like, What
All sorts of stuff.
how do you compare 2012 first year Prism to 2018 Prism to 2003 Tops or Tops Chrome? So there's opportunities in there. Like even when you go on ComC, you have all those little tick box filters on the side, right?
Mhm.
Graded, ungraded, graded PSA tint, but then you get into rookie card, rookie
year. Yeah.
a little overkill to me. It's almost always the same, but there is.
Well, rookie year will open it up to like inserts of that player, and it's weird because it'll include rookie cards, but depending on the player of the year, the sport, it could be twice as many cards. But it gets confusing. But again, it's a good way to say, all right, I don't want rookie year. I really want rookie cards. But regardless, keep going.
Yep. So adding the ability to do deeper filtering onto some of those attributes, and then the other piece is set specific information, variation specific information, card specific information, player specific information. Like I'll drop a little hint. How cool would it be to look at a price movement chart and then see there was this huge spike and to know what event maybe corresponded to what happened there? Like Pat Mahomes signed a record breaking contract, or whatever. This LeBron AD goes to the Lakers, whatever types of things cause these big swings, to have the event or the qualitative information that corresponds to that, and to have that historically so that you can use market movers and the data as a research tool, not just as a, what's happening right now, but also what has happened. That's kind of the direction we're going in this. So there's a ton of stuff that we can do to keep adding value in as an educational piece, to take in some of that cardboard connection type information and the other, even just the knowledge that we have as a collective team, bring that into the tool itself.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because one of the videos I wanted to do is a recap of the NBA playoffs and where card prices went of players that are current NBA players but eliminated or never in the bubble, players that were eliminated in the playoffs, LeBron and AD prices, and then Hall of Famers, and create my own analysis of, okay, during this time, did Hall of Famers go down? And is this something that we can use in other seasons and other sports of, okay, in the middle of the playoffs, Hall of Famers are the last thing people are thinking about. And once a player is eliminated, it is 2.5 weeks from where the prices seem to hit their all-time low of their most common card. That kind of stuff is very fascinating because, I mean, like I said earlier, predicting who's going to be the next LeBron James or the next Luka is tough. But human behavior is pretty damn easy. We got like the same cells and genes and everything for millions of years, and we always tend to do similar things. So if we can understand how we will react to a game, regardless of what player hits the game-winning shot or whatever, we can at least have that advantage there. So any sort of context around a price drop or a price increase is great for me and the type of investor I am. There was a question here by Michael. He appreciates the program, the app. Not enough cards yet to pay the amount if you're not a flipper. So in terms of long-term holders, you buy a card, you want to have it for 5 years, you have the My Collection tool. Is there anything else that would make sense for a long-term investor, especially if you're not going to be moving too much with the cards?
Yeah. So maybe I can share a little bit about what my investment strategy is. And I invest and I collect. And for me, one of the things I like to do a lot of times, some people would say, don't do this. I can't help myself, maybe, is it? But when I invest in cards, I either invest exclusively in a card that I would be completely okay getting stuck with. Hey,
like my Tim Allen.
Like your Tim Allen auto, exactly. Your foil, rainbow foil Tim Allen auto.
One of one, that's right.
If you find a cracked ice Tim Allen, I will jump on that.
Well, you know the Michigan guy, and he was arrested for cocaine possession back in the 70s. FYI, Snapple fact right there. But anyway,
back then, So anyway, so from an investment strategy, I buy cards that I am interested in, or one thing I might like to do is like I buy multiples. If I'm like really convinced that a card is going to sell, I buy 2 of them and then I wait. And when the price hits a certain point, you basically funded having the other one for your PC or a much more long-term hold. I personally rarely play the flipper game, especially now. A year ago, you could flip. I found a Trae Young Optic Hollow Raw on Mercari for $20, and I sold it the day I got it for $100 because it just was like, things weren't moving as quickly on some sites and things. I could find stuff on Facebook. I could find things all over the place for deals, and I could flip them. That's what I call like a quick flip. Today, it's really hard to do that. Like, there's a lot of volatility. Things get snatched up really quickly. By the time you get the card, it's already kind of come back down. It's not a game that I have as much interest in playing. And I think it's one of the things that's kind of, I don't know, that's one of the more polarizing components of the sports card market, I'll say right now. For me, it makes a lot more sense to do a lot of what you do on Saturdays and to look at what has already like come down so significantly that I can play the long game. And the long game might be 2 months. It might be 1 month. It might be 6 months. But start looking ahead and saying, how do I predict out? So if you look at the price of market movers now, I mean, I've bought so many cards using market movers, looking at that data, looking where it is on the graph, clicking the little like buy it on eBay button, going out, finding a buy it now that's priced even below what the recent comp is, and watching it rebound. And I mean, honestly, I've sold cards that would have paid for the annual membership, like just one card. Like if you do that, but again, you have to be investing at a certain dollar threshold or buying in volume or doing some other things. So that's the feedback we get from a lot of people. I think that's why a lot of people are still members. Occasionally we get people in Discord or saying like, this is too expensive. And it's kind of interesting to see like how many people very quickly, some people swarm and are like, no, it's not. And other people are like, here's how you can use it, or like this kind of combo tech, but I don't have to say anything. Like I can see the comment and then people are like, no, it's not, you're doing something wrong. You know what I mean? So
I think
it's about it's back to that education piece and knowing how to use it. And I'll be the first one to admit we still have a lot of opportunity to keep increasing our training and how to explore the tool and become more familiar with the power that the data presents.
Yeah, and as Lee mentions here about making it easier to use, the training videos you had in summer, I was repeating it because I wanted to see what other investors that had been using it for months and months, what they were going to first. Because people ask me about Comp C training. They're like, how do you find deals on Comp C? I'm like, oh, well, I sort by this. I'm looking up this player because of these reasons. Then I'll look for this card, and then I'll look for the cheapest one of that card and see the difference between the cheapest one and the second and third cheapest one to see if I buy it at $40 and the second cheapest is 65 and the next one's 85, and I believe in this player, hey, there's a good chance that mine will be second or third, and I still make an 80% profit with just a few clicks in 2 months' time. Yeah. But that's not common knowledge, and even if it is, or even if it's someone can acquire it, it might take months and months of using a paid tool to learn enough information to be able to use it appropriately. Yeah. And I feel like, in terms of turnover rate, if people aren't getting in and seeing the value right away, it's very easy to cancel the membership, saying whatever membership it is in any program, any software, that it's not worth it because they haven't been presented the knowledge, the training in order to make it worth their while some people might have 6 months to say, let me give it 6 months to see if it's worth it. Other people are like, look, this is a lot of money right now, and this is $50 worth of cards I could get for sure. Yeah. I need this to be well worth it right now. And if they're not going to see it immediately in that 2 to 3 week period, they're already clicking unsubscribe or cancel membership. So tell me a bit about the training, if you're going to continue that, what angles you're going to do, or if you're going to expand it at all, because just from my own perspective, that helped me a lot. And that's how I use your emails too, is what are you seeing when you look at that chart, and what can I apply next time in terms of multipliers, price drops, this feature, that feature, because it's not intuitive for a lot of people.
Yep. Yeah. There's a lot I could say in there too. So the first thing that I do when I prepare to write my card picks every week is similar to your approach. It's to go look for the low buy lows, where what's come down significantly. I couple that with just knowledge of the sports industry as a whole, what's going on in sports. So I knew a couple of things I like to do. Use the price movements, go look what's low, and look over the last 7 days, but really look over like the last 14 and the last 30, right? Mm-hmm. I click on those toggles. I see players who I'm high on to come back, like Nikola Jokic, it still has career. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander probably is going to be the leader of the team next year if Chris Paul leaves and gets traded to Milwaukee or somebody else, right? Like, look for those opportunities. So it's projecting out of what you think is going to happen with certain players and knowing what types of things create visibility, hype, whatever you want to call it, around them. And then look for them to be on a low point. One of the tools that I use rigorously is our price alerts. And we have price alerts in the tool. Any card that's in our popular card chart, you can set up your own custom price alert. So let's say I'm like, you know what? Let's say I don't have any Shai Gilgeous-Alexander cards, but I think the guy's going to be an all-star, a perennial all-star, and I think he's got a lot of room to grow, right? So I'm going to say, you know what? Shai's cards look at the graph. They look kind of like they're at a high point. I'm going to set a price alert, customize the title, the name on it, which you can make it say whatever you want, like time to buy, and then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander silver, and say, if this card drops below, $200 on a Prism Silver PSA 10, I want to be notified. You get the email, and all of a sudden in your inbox, it's like, oh man, I forgot I was even targeting that card, or I set that 2 months ago. It looks like it's come down, and you can click the little link and go out and see it, and then click the eBay link and grab it. And then when I buy a card, the first thing I do is go back to Market Movers, immediately add it to my collection, and then I click the price alert button for the price that I would sell that card at. I have another alert set up to come and notify me. And so it's like, it takes the whole legwork out of the whole thing. I don't have to constantly, my saved searches on eBay is like 180 saved searches because there's so many cards I'm interested in. You start migrating that stuff over into Market Movers, on Chart Any Card with the saved searches, on popular card charts with the saved searches, and using the price alerts. I use price alerts on cards that I'm not even necessarily interested in buying, but I just want to keep tabs on for information. Like, customize the title in parentheses to say FYI and then have the description. So there's ways that people kind of use some of those features. And this is, again, that's more of what I understand would be really helpful for people to kind of see firsthand. And then all of a sudden little light bulbs start going off. And I find out other people are using cool little tricks in the tool too all the time. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, just the other thing is make it easier to use could mean a few different things. It could just mean that he doesn't think the user experience overall is very friendly, or it could mean more training. As far as the UX goes, that's a big piece of what we're constantly looking for improvements on: user interface and user experience. And why should you have to click this thing over it? Like on popular card charts right now, if you want to add a new player into your search, it resets everything else below it. So you have to reprompt. That drives me crazy. So I'm like, okay, how can we make this friendlier? Well, one of the things we plan to do is make a hybrid search, like an advanced search and a basic search, where one will just be a free text field. And as you start typing Prism Silver Luka, it will show you all of his things like it does on the name search. And you just check that one and then check the next one that you want, and it'll add them all to the chart. Or you can use the whole layered chart system so that you can kind of see what's in there as opposed to looking for it yourself by typing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. I was going to share the screen. One thing I will say, sometimes the load time is really slow. And I'm not sure if that's an eBay, pulling the eBay data or whatever, but sometimes it's slow. But going back to what you said in terms of the 14-7 30-day thing, that's exactly what speaks to me, and just the way I want to invest is basically looking at the trends of what's low. So I'll do an example real quick here. But sometimes I will notice, like, I don't know if that would have loaded if I didn't open this box right here.
I know what you're saying.
Like some things are, I'll be honest, some things are a bit wonky, just like not fully, no, I don't know about fixed, but it's just not fully.
Not fine-tuned.
Fine-tuned, yeah, exactly. That's the word. Where,
yeah.
Okay, so exactly. So here in the last 60 days, take a look. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, biggest drop has been 2018 PSA 9. And then if I go to open this, I might have to share the whole screen here. But this is just the way that, let me see here. Stop that, share screen. And let's take a look if that works. And then you see, okay, since early July, this PSA 9 pop report of 1258 was at $105. And this is a low-end card, so it's not like going to be incredible, but up to 146. And then I also noticed, okay, August 3rd to August 20th was just insane. There was like a 2-week period where every card was insane. And then, okay, it bottomed out at $51 a week ago, and now it's actually gone up a little bit, up to roughly $70 from actually a low of 51 to 68. So if I see that over and over again with different players and different players of basketball, then I ask myself, okay, well, is this the bottom? Are people comfortable now buying in right now? And one of the things I said on my last live stream was, before the holidays, before the next stimulus check, before hype around the next season, I want to buy as much basketball as possible, because when people care about basketball and they have the money, then the floodgates are going to be open. And I want to be selling, and the players I want to sell are the ones that are going to be hyped the most before the playoffs. The one where the stimulus check, who am I going to pick? This player, this card, those are the ones I want to start with. But regardless, some sort of data tells me what's on sale, what's not, and then what dips the most after an event. What players is it Luka that dipped the most? Well, no, it was actually, like other guys. Lillard, after, his August spike, dipped the most, and certain things like that. Before we head off, because it's been an hour 22, it's been great. What overall are you doing right now in terms of your collecting and investing? What are you focusing on? How are you finding some deals, and just some parting thoughts for us?
Yeah. Well, number one, again, hopefully some people will check out my Instagram. I have a couple of pages. My primary one is Drummond Card Collector. I started collecting Andre Drummond because I'm a Detroit sports fan, Pistons fan. Even though I have my Chiefs jersey in the background, I collect all Detroit sports, and he just was the best player we've had for the last 8 years since he was a rookie. So he got traded anyway. I'm always looking for high-end one-of-one Andre Drummonds. I have the complete prism rainbows, optic rainbows. Like, it's something I really enjoy doing. And hopefully, if we ever do this again, hopefully I'll have them displayed up here. Actually, this is my 2 Nebula Drummonds back here.
Why don't you pull them up here?
So,
it looks so lonely back there. Like, you need one of these like legit made in China display cases like I got here.
So nice. This is 18 and the 2018 and 2019 Nebulas. I have both of the Spectra Nebula one-of-ones. I have both of the black prisms. So I think my birthday's in about a week, actually exactly a week. I think I'm getting some displays for my cards as a gift, so from my family. So hopefully I'll get some of that stuff up. But that's my PC side. I had a box somewhere too. I went to a local card show this last weekend and picked up a whole bunch of 10, 20, 50 cent 90s inserts. I'm just kind of crazy for that. One goal I have is to collect, is to get a copy of every single Gary Payton card from the 90s. There's about 1,000 of them, and I've documented the checklist and sorted it, and I have a binder. I'm about a third of the way there, so a little ways to go, but that's another cool thing. I just think it would be really cool to see how sports cards evolved in the 90s. And then in terms of investing, Just to touch on what you were just saying about like Shea and what's going to happen in buying basketball cards now while people aren't really looking. There's a lot of what I might call, and I don't mean it demeaning, but there's a lot of kind of spastic money out there. And the spastic money is people who like to play fantasy sports, people who like to bet on sports, people who want like a quick fix, flip it, whatever. They might not get the return they're looking for, but they're still willing to sell at a loss because they need the cash flow back to reinvest into what's current. That's if you're willing to be patient and play the 3-month game, the 6-month game, that's where you're going to see the biggest returns, not on quick flips. Like the spastic money competes against the spastic money constantly. So I would just say, like, I'm looking into next season too. Jay Gillage, a little tip, basketball players tend to see their make or break in their 3rd and 4th season. Okay. So if you look at somebody this year, Jason Tatum exploded. His cards went up like 1,000% this season. It was his 3rd season. He showed flashes and he took it to another level and became the leader of that team this year. Even with a veteran Kemba Walker on the team, Jason Tatum was clearly the guy. Look for those opportunities. Go back to that 2017-18 draft class and the 2018-19 draft class and say, who do I think has potential to take a leap this year, whether it's a change of scenery, a new coach, like what the heck's going to happen with Lauri Markkanen? I'm not particularly high on him, but they're going to have Billy Donovan now in Chicago. It's been such a dumpster fire there. Can Kobe White and Lauri Markkanen and Zach LaVine coexist? So I'm looking ahead to those, using my knowledge of basketball and the NBA and watching the free agency and trade market to say, like, who are some of these guys that could end up blowing up? Like, I have a whole bunch of Mitchell Robinson cards, which may have not been the best investment, but I'm still kind of hoping that guy is like got this freakish player efficiency rating. Maybe he'll get a chance to shine too. So don't look now, look ahead.
That's it. And I like to think, don't look ahead, look even further ahead, just because if most people are looking 2 weeks or a month or 6 weeks, I want to go just beyond where the masses are looking, because those are the ones where it's going to be a bidding war. And sometimes there's not enough profit at the end because some people don't want to get in a week before. They want to get in a month before, thinking they're early. And I'm like, well, what's that window of not too far ahead where I'm losing out on doubling my money again and again, but I'm just far enough out? And just based on what you're saying, a lot of it for me is who has disappointed the most in the playoffs, and Kawhi Leonard and Giannis were two guys I said, oh. And then, I got to say this real quick about football. It was horrific what happened to Dak Prescott. Horrific to see it. And I go, man, I can't wait for him to return next year because, man, the chip on his shoulder, I hope he's 100%. But even something like that, I go, I will be gladly investing in Dak Prescott. And it'll be an emotional, I hope he do it, because that's just such a painful thing to watch. And his response was just so pure of just being heartbroken over that injury. But in terms of, injury, letdown, disappointment, and then also, if I'm a 16-year-old kid, who am I spending my allowance and Christmas money on first? And I'm thinking, John Morant, Zion Williamson, Luka. Are there cards there that are on sale? And one little thing that I've been buying, I know someone recommended Trae Young in one of the emails. I think it was yesterday's email. May have mentioned Trae Young. But Trae Young's rookie year Prism inserts. And I used that because I compared it to Luka's. And Luka's, I think it's Dominance or Emergent, one of those. Luka's was going for about $20 on up for his rookie year Prism insert, not the rookie year card. But Trae was about $3. And I said, you know what, man, I might as well scoop up 10 of these, 15 of these, because I could easily see that becoming a $10 or $12 card next year. But regardless, I love that kind of mindset with it. Any parting words, anything you'd like to say as we sign off, Tyler?
Last two things, the Dak thing was horrible. And the Dak injury, not the thing, the horrific injury. One, anybody who knows about his background, I think his mom died while he was in college. His brother died this last year. The guy's had not an easy string of years, even for being, people dream of being in the NFL. Then he ends up in this horrible contract negotiation, which is all these players are ending up in, and gets franchise tagged. He's making $31 million a year this year, but now this horrible injury, and it's like, can he come back from that? I hope so. For the Cowboys are my least favorite team, but I'm a Dak Prescott fan. I like him.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, is just, kind of prayers for him, and I hope just for his sake that he's able to recover. That's another reason why we don't look at doing too much predictive valuation of cards, because anybody could come back to us and say, you told me Dak's silver prism was going to be worth $1,000 in 2 weeks, or, and look what happened. It's like, we can't predict that type of stuff, and nor would we want to try to. So that's about it. The other thing is just, you nailed it with the emergent. Like, that's the way. I love the mindset. I love that you're sharing this type of stuff with people, because you look at those leading indicators, the pace setters or leading indicators of the market. It's always going to be the best rookie from a class or the best veteran legend in a particular sport setting the pace. And then they have their own like little trail of like wedding bells that come behind them and like make all the noise.
The first brides, or bridesmaids.
There's always parallel movement behind them. And so what you'll see is, if Trae Young, who's frankly rookie numbers are the second best rookie numbers of any player for the last decade, behind only Luka Doncic, who he lost the Rookie of the Year to. If he keeps playing the way he's playing, that dude, it's so much farther ahead than Curry was at that age, or anybody. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. You could see the rest of those wedding bells, those little dominoes, catching up on the same types of cards as his other cards become too expensive for some people.
Yeah, and one other cool thing is, for one, I use that same strategy in hockey. And actually, last month's sales, my profit was the highest from hockey cards, which is a bit weird. But my Tampa Bay Lightning won the cup, and the guy that's not in the shadow, but the third star besides the goalie is Braden Point, and he's just this puck handling machine, and he's a playmaker. And I've seen him, and I remember in March when I bought his cards, I looked at the stats, and he was goal scorer number 10 in 2017, and then number 14, and it was always like top 15 in the league. But it was like, here's the obvious, right? Here's the icing on the cake. Here's the Luka. Here's the Zion. Here's all the attention. But then right underneath that is usually a lot of the value. And I also correlate that to the way the Patriots draft. I like to think, man, get 5 of those late first round, early second round picks where the guys that are really talented somehow drop out, and you got all this value right there versus, trading the next 3 years worth of first round picks to get that number 1 quarterback, and he doesn't pan out. And that's the same thing as overpaying for a Zion or someone that you just paid at the wrong time, and the hype was there, but the merit was not yet. And with guys like Trae Young, you're talking about, all right, you have a couple years under your belt. You've proven you're improving, and you're a great player. You don't have any off-the-court issues. You're likable, and then the risk is lower. Even if you don't pay bottom dollar, you pay a good amount, but the upside is still much higher than the downside.
Last thing, price. I forgot this. My collection value charts are coming very soon. Like we're testing them in dev. We're working on them. But basically tracking the value, the net value and the total value of your collection over time. So taking a daily timestamp of what you're doing, as well as your sold value. And then next in queue, hopefully soon, will be like more of a pie chart where you can use the categories or the sports to say, you know what, how have I broken up my portfolio into blue chip, mid cap, like type, just like if you're looking at your investment account, your IRA or whatever. So I know you're really passionate about people budgeting and being smart with their money and not overextending themselves, Brad. So I would that's like my last parting wisdom is be smart. Don't spend more than you can afford to spend. Do not overextend yourself. Because there can be a little bit of the same kind of gambling like risk. And it's fun.
That's the problem. if this wasn't fun, it'd be a lot easier not to overspend.
Like I'm gonna go get every one of these in the set, But
and when you get that emotion, you see that bit of news. You clicking a few buttons. I swear, like there needs to be a rule where it's take 10 deep breaths, walk outside before you open eBay, because it is so easy, it's so quick, and that also boils down to the way Amazon and eBay is designed. It's like your credit card's here, one click, don't think about it, just order, buy it now, boom. And now, now you have like, a Tyler Hero, rookie card, but you bought it a month ago when it's at its high versus now. And I got to call you out. If you have Tyler Hero cards, I told you sell before this, because even if you're into him long term, you buy double as much now. Like in the next week, you could buy 2 times the amount of rookie cards and then hold it long term. And when you go on another high, you sell them, and then you can buy 4 times as much. But
anybody who's read the card picks, I keep picking on poor Tyler Hero, and I like the guy. I think he's cool. I think he's got a lot of swagger and confidence and whatever else. But I just say I have never seen a player get more crazy reaction for making 1 bucket than that guy. It's the weirdest thing to me. Like, he shoots 4 for 13. People are like, Tyler Hero's just this stud. And I'm like, he had like 2 assists, 3 turnovers, no steals, and 4 shots. Like, I know it. I like him. He's actually really good. I think he's got a lot of upside. His card prices are absurd.
That's the thing. It always has to be relative to what you're paying. Relative to what you're paying. I mean, like, okay, so you have a snarl after you hit 1 3-pointer after hitting the side of the backboard 7 times. You're telling me like, oh, dude, look, I got a snarl because I hit that shot, like second shot of the game, and I'm supposed to pay 10 times more for your rookie card than someone like Rajon Rondo, who actually was a pleasant surprise for the Lakers, and even Dwight Howard. People were giving me a hard time about the Dwight Howard rookie cards I bought on CompC for $3. Topps Chrome rookie cards for like $3.80 that I sold for about $30. That's a 10x, 9x profit or so. And, so it always boils down to not who's the highest high, but what are you getting it for, and where's that range, and as well as what's the risk involved with that. Yeah. And so anyway, dude, we can go on and on. It's been an hour 37. I'm surprised I haven't left to use the restroom, because usually 45 to an hour after drinking this is my maximum before I have to run off to the bathroom.
Plus, your life's going to be warm now too. That's terrible. Nobody likes warm life.
Dude, my this is going back in the fridge. It's going to be it's terrible beer regardless, so it doesn't matter if it's warm and going back in. But this is what I'm looking forward to. Tyler, thanks so much for joining me. Eat those cookie cakes or cake cookies, whatever you call them here. And dude, I appreciate you coming on. And guys, do you want them to follow you? Is there any way to follow you or anything you want to direct them to right now?
Yeah, if you're on it, I'm mostly just on Instagram, Drummond Card Collector. I also have, if you go to that, you'll see my link to my other Instagram. I have another. I keep all my Drummond cards on that one, and then anything else basically another one called Teapot's Cards.
Okay, how do I spell that real quick, or do you want to put them in the chat real quick?
Yeah, let me put them in the chat.
And then tomorrow I'll link it up where they can find you. But so Andre Drummond Collection on IG.
Yep. Let's go to that one, and you can find everything else. But yeah, so thanks for everybody who watched, and it's been a lot of fun, Brad. And honestly, I'm not blowing smoke. I really appreciate your objectivity. I like what you're trying to do for people, helping educate them. That's a big part of our mission, and I think the more people who are doing that, the better. And your review was very fair, and always welcoming feedback and opportunities for us to make it more valuable. And for anybody who's there and who has said it's not worth it for me right now, or there's not enough cards or anything, I hope you'll at least stay connected to us just to see what's coming, because we're gonna have more and more. We're not stopping. We're not slowing down. It's my buddy. Shout out to Ian, If Sports Cards. It's one of my favorite channels too. So he's a good dude.
Right on. Just want to, thank you guys for joining, and for sure. And remember, this is moving so quickly that you might as well just stay tuned, because one day, whether or not now, market movers could definitely be worth it, and they're just evolving so fast. And guys, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate y'all. Thanks so much, Tyler. I got to piss now, and now I'm going to eat my cake. So
see you guys.
Talk to you later.